Welcome to No One Asked Us. I'm Craig Schote. That is Logan Lee. We're on episode 5 of the show. Logan, I think we're struggling with some stuff to talk about. I'm not sure anything happened this week. So
I don't know what to talk about. I didn't really have anything prepared. We just kind of decided to come on and chat. So I thought maybe at some point we'd come up with something. I don't know. You got Blues banners and stuff behind you. I'm sure there's something hockey we could talk about, or baseball season's around the corner. Who knows?
You say we didn't come prepared because we didn't come prepared to talk about what we are going to have to talk about this episode. I don't think we expected the Illinois season to come to an end as quickly as it did. The Illini lose Sunday afternoon to Loyola Chicago 71-58 in the round of 32 of the NCAA tournament. Sister Jean strikes again. That was after a commanding 78-49 win in round 1 over Drexel. Just kind of nothing went right for the Illini. So we're going to talk about that game specifically. Then the Big Ten has had a terrible tournament. So we'll talk about that, dissect that. Some seeding. I think a lot of that shows in the Illinois loss to Loyola. We'll talk about the seeding of the NCAA, and then probably get to some off-season stuff. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of change with Illinois, so we'll talk about that. It is about 8:45 on a Sunday night while we're recording. I think there's 3 games left. Monday night.
We're
on
Monday night.
we are on Monday night this week.
We're a week delayed.
Episode. We are a day delayed.
Or yes, a day delayed. Been a long few days.
We've been on a routine, and we got off our routine, and we're going haywire here. 2 games going on right now. 3 games. Kansas, USC just started. So 13 of the 16 spots have been filled. We'll keep you updated on what's going on at these other 3, whatever. So let's dive into it. Illinois loses to Loyola. We don't even need to talk about the Drexel game. Illinois looks so good on Friday afternoon, and then Sunday happens. And as much as I love to see MVC teams win, because it helps out our alma mater, SIU, this one was tough to swallow for me. I think because the expectations were so high with this team. Everyone was picking them to the Final Four. Probably 90% of people picking Illinois to go to the Final Four, and they don't even get to the Sweet 16. 2 All-Americans. Just tough to swallow, but kudos to Loyola after having a good couple hours to grieve over the loss. They just executed. Their game plan was A+, and their execution was A+. Props to Porter Mosier, all his assistants, because their scouting report was spot on, and they took Illinois out of everything they wanted to do. So, Logan, I'll toss to you. What was your initial reaction, or let me change that. When did you know or have a feeling that this was going to end up the way it did?
So I was watching this game with my brother, who hasn't watched a lot of college basketball this year, but he had been told through some of his friends that Cameron Krutwig reminds them of my brother Cameron on the basketball court. So Cameron was really interested in watching this kid play. So immediately Cameron makes a comment to me, "Oh, I'm really pulling for this kid." And at that point, I just kind of felt this bad juju in the room. I'm not going to blame him. But just from that, it was, what I'm getting at is that it was right away.
Yep,
it was honestly, it was from the opening tip. I just had this, Loyola just controlled the game from the very beginning. And you touched on it. It was the coaching. It was the scouting. Illinois got outplayed, outcoached, outscouted, out everything. Yep. There was nothing that Illinois did that was better than anything Loyola did. And I'm not going to say it blows my mind, because Loyola is a good team, and we'll talk about that too. I was just shocked by how poorly Illinois played.
Yeah.
Kofi still managed to put up 20 points, I think. Not sure where any of that came from.
Yeah.
There were some flashes from Curbelo and an occasional 3 from somebody, but Io was nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And credit Loyola's defense. I mean, they just locked them down.
Yep.
And it looked like Illinois had never seen a double team before. I mean, everybody has been doubling, tripling, quadrupling up on Kofi in the post. And teams have been doubling up on Io this year, but for whatever Loyola was doing, Illinois had no answer for it. Yeah. None. And just from the very beginning of that game, I just felt uneasy. And I think that's kind of where the whole thing started, and it just never got better.
Yeah, leading up to the game, a couple of my group chats with Illini fans that I'm in, we were all talking about, this is an MVC team. We know they're a quality MVC team, but this is a different Illinois team. This isn't an Illinois team we've seen in the last 8 years. This is a team, like I said, with 2 All-Americans, with some depth, playing some of the best basketball in the country. So all of us were very confident. And for me, one thing that I remember saying was, this isn't the 2018 road that Loyola took to the Final Four. This is a number 1 seed. In 2018, they beat a 6, they beat a 3, they beat a 7, they beat a 9, and then they lost to a 3. They never played a top seeded team. So I was coming in pretty confident, and it was quick. It was 9-2 quick, and I saw what Loyola was doing, and I immediately got worried. It, like you said, it was like Illinois had never seen a double team before. They were, I think someone called it blitzing the ball screen. They were getting out on top of the ball screen before Io even got to it. And it was only Io. Did you notice that? When Curbelo was running the point, they were just going behind the screen. Towards the end of the game, they started blitzing Curbelo as well. But it was only Io that they were blitzing. And that's where I think the big reason Illinois lost is because of coaching, because they didn't adjust. When you see they're blitzing the ball screen and Io's got 4 first half turnovers, Grandison has 3 first half turnovers, do something else. Change it up. Illinois continued to do the ball screen the entire game. Do you not have anything else in your playbook? Can you not run offense while the other guys set screens? It doesn't have to be a ball screen. It came down to coaching. After thinking about it, I didn't rewatch anything. Like, if they were during halftime of the other games, if they were talking about Illinois, I changed the channel. Like,
I logged off. I logged off of everything. I disconnected.
Yep.
I was vacationing, so it was very easy for me to disconnect for the next several hours. I didn't get back on Twitter until I was at the airport later that night. I didn't want to revisit any of it. I didn't want to see what people are saying on Twitter. I didn't want to get on Facebook. I didn't want to watch a highlight. I didn't want anything. I was just in that state where I didn't want to revisit any part of that game. Last night.
I live with my phone connected to my hand 24/7. My phone is in my hand.
Same.
With about 8 minutes left, I put my phone down. So my routine watching games is I have my laptop up right in front of me with the live stat feed, and I have my phone in my hand that I'm texting on or tweeting or whatever on my phone. I shut my laptop and put my phone down with 8 minutes left. After Illinois made a run to get it to 6 and Loyola extended it back to 11 or 12, I shut my laptop, put my phone down. When the buzzer sounded, turned my phone off, walked out our back screen door, said, I'm going on a walk. I came back 2 hours later. My phone was off the whole time. I was this close to deactivating my Twitter account just for a couple hours.
I thought about it. I really honestly did. I went on Do Not Disturb. I honestly thought about it. I didn't even want to just have the chance to look at it, because just as you talked about, out of habit, I have a tendency when I'm just sitting there doing nothing to pull that out and look at it. I didn't want anything to do with it.
Yep. Turned everything off, went on a walk. We got a park pretty close to our place. And I just sat on a bench for at least 30 minutes. I think I was probably gone an hour, not 2 hours. I just sat there, hood up, face down. Like
same.
I didn't say a word for probably 2 hours. Not to my girlfriend, not to like people were walking by me, like saying hi. I was like, I'm not a mean person. I'm just in a bad mood. Okay. It was one of those days. But after that, I had some dinner and I told myself I wasn't going to watch any more of the tournament and all that, but I turned the games on last night and watched the rest. And, it was a good season. It really was.
Absolutely.
But it's still such a disappointing ending that this is how this team's going to be remembered. As much as
Yeah.
I hate to say it, Big Ten champs. I don't know if you can even say the best team in the Big Ten anymore, but one of the best teams in the country. No doubt they were one of the best teams in the country.
Absolutely they were.
But they're going to be remembered as the team that didn't fulfill what they should have.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's just a disappointing finish to what was, we've talked about it the last few weeks on this show. The team that started out with high potential, high expectations, but we weren't really sure what we were going to get. And then the kind of ebbs and flows of the regular season, and peaking at the end like it did, and then to go in and run through the conference tournament and win a conference championship, and then to just flame out like that. It's just disappointing is the word. I keep seeing stuff like worst loss and these things flying around. That's a stretch. I'm not a Illinois basketball historian. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what losses are more important than others, but the timing and everything surrounding this game, it's hard to not have it in the conversation of most disappointing, potentially school history. Again, I'm not a historian. I'm not going to have that conversation, but in my lifetime, a team that enters the tournament as a number 1 seed, as the number 2 team in the country in terms of rankings, to lose in the second round to anybody is tough. Now, I think we can probably switch the conversation to the seeding and go from there, because Loyola's not an 8 seed.
Right.
Loyola shouldn't have been an 8 seed. And again, there's no excuses. Illinois just was outplayed. So it doesn't matter who they lose to, they just got outplayed. Yeah. But Loyola was not an 8 seed. Should not have been in that situation to begin with. Had Illinois won that game, it wouldn't have been fair to Loyola. They were better than that. They were 16th or 17th ranked in the country. How does that equal an 8 seed? Yep. Where does that math come in? Like, I don't know. Again, not trying to make an excuse. It's just, it is what it is. So there was a lot of questions there, but disappointing way to end that season, and hats off to Loyola. They just outplayed Illinois.
Before we dive into the seeding more, my buddy Robert Rosenthal at IlliniBoard.com is probably the Illini historian I would go to for anything. Yep. That dude has more Illini knowledge than anyone I've ever come across. 6 hours ago, he tweeted this quote: "I've given it 24 hours and here's where I've landed. Worst tourney losses." His top 3. 3 was Chattanooga. He doesn't have years, so I don't know the years, but Chattanooga beat the 15th ranked Illinois team 75-63. Number 2 was Austin Peay beating the 12th ranked Illinois team 68-67. Now these are national rankings. These aren't seeds for Illinois. And then he has Sunday as the most disappointing worst tourney loss.
Does he use worst or does he use most disappointing?
He used worst tourney loss.
Okay. Because that's the conversation I've been having. And I saw that word was also tweeted around, and I'm trying to figure out in my mind if it's worst or if it's most disappointing. I think those are two very different things.
Yeah, very true.
But again, I trust. I mean, Robert is definitely the person that I would go to more so than some of these other people. But that's the kind of debate I've been having in my head: is what's the correct verbiage to use to describe it. I'm kind of settling on most disappointing, but again, I'm not the historian that he is. So
he said he struggled ranking the final 2 because Loyola would easily destroy the Austin Peay team that beat Illinois.
Yeah,
but being the number 2 team in the country clinches it, which I agree. But back to the seeding, you were talking about Loyola. They 100% did not deserve to be an 8 seed. I mean, and I don't think the committee takes these factors into effect, but I'm sure you look at KenPom. Most of our listeners probably look at KenPom. They were number 9 in KenPom, number 1 defensively, the best defensive team in the country.
And they showed it.
No kidding.
They showed it on Sunday.
No kidding. 22-4 on the year, I think, in a MVC that got 2 bids. They beat Drake. I mean, that was not an 8 seed. So the committee, in a way, and I'm not making excuses, but the committee screwed both of these schools. They handed Illinois or Loyola, if Illinois would have beat Loyola, they handed that team the loss. Yeah. I will say, I went back and watched last week's episode. I think we both said Georgia Tech would beat Loyola.
Yeah, we did.
My thinking with that was SIU hung with Loyola twice, so they can't be that good. Obviously, we did not do enough research because this Loyola team.
Well, Georgia Tech also didn't have their best player.
Exactly, that's true.
Not to say that I mean, I'm not going to try to go back and.
That's true. I did change my pick.
What would have happened, but
yeah, I changed my pick. So in my bracket, I did have Loyola winning because Georgia Tech lost their best player. But this Loyola team is probably going to go to the Final Four now. The Midwest region is in shambles. Rutgers, it should be 8, 10, 11, and 12 in the Sweet 16 because Rutgers blew it against Houston.
Yeah, I didn't catch the end of that game.
They had I think a 10-point lead in the second half. I'm not even sure. I was watching because, like I said last week, Rutgers was my one double-digit seed. We're not even going to talk about brackets today because I'm sure both of ours are atrocious. But it comes back to seeding, and I think it was Jay Billis. I don't want to attribute it to him if it wasn't him. It was one of the big college basketball people that talked before Selection Sunday, and he made a really good point that I think is holding true now because we're seeing such chaos, is that this is going to be, he said it before the bracket was released, this is going to be the toughest tournament to seed probably ever. Yeah. And this is why. And you might have thought of it too or heard it as well. Normally we get these 10 to 15 non-conference games,
right,
where we can see Oral Roberts or Ohio, see what they have against these power conference teams. We didn't get that full slate this year. Now, Illinois did play Ohio, but Ohio did not play a single power conference team other than Illinois. I didn't look at Oral Roberts' schedule or anything. So because we didn't get to see and feel out these mid-majors and even these power teams, Loyola, I didn't look at their non-conference schedule. Of course, Illinois, you played Duke, you played Baylor, you played some Missouri. Yeah, you played some power teams. So we had a good idea with Illinois. But a bunch of these teams, they only played teams in their conference 90% of the time this year. And I think it's showing now because we're going to have 4 double-digit seeds in the Sweet 16, which I believe is the most ever. So I think that's where the selection committee kind of struggled. So I don't want to give them too much crap for the bad seeds, except Loyola. I don't understand how the 17th team in the country in the AP poll is an 8 seed. At worst, they're a 6, probably even a 5.
Loyola,
I feel like they played. I feel like they played.
They lost at Wisconsin by 14.
I knew they played at least one team,
and they lost to Richmond.
Who Richmond had high expectations this year. They fell off late, but I think at one point they were being talked about as a bubble team.
Yeah, and then in the regular season they lost to Indiana State, and then they lost to Drake, who also made the tournament. Yeah. So they had 4 losses. 2 of them were to tournament teams.
Yep.
And one of them was a Big Ten major conference team. So,
and I don't know if this will change things about how the selection committee picks. I doubt it. They go by the net, and I don't know how accurate the net is. The net had Colgate as the number 8 team in the country, which Colgate was good. Colgate gave Arkansas a run, but I don't think they're the number 8 team in the country. So
no,
a bunch of mistakes seeding this year, and Illinois. It costs Illinois a trip to the Sweet 16 potentially, but once Illinois lost, I was in my brackets busted. I'm like, chaos. Give me Loyola, Ohio for the national championship. That would be awesome.
You might get it. You might get that. Although Gonzaga looks really good.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sticking to that one.
Ohio lost, so Ohio's out.
Well, right, yeah.
Like UCLA, like chaos, an 11 seed or something like that. But
yes, in terms of chaos, but
yeah. Chaos, a lot of that chaos is thanks to the Big Ten. 9 teams, and there is 1 team left because Alabama is beating Maryland 59-42 right now. So Maryland's out. So Michigan is going to carry the torch for the Big Ten. I've got some thoughts on the Big Ten struggles that I've told a couple people, but I'm going to hand it to you first. And what, excuse me, Red Bull. What have you seen from the Big Ten? Why do you think the Big Ten continues to struggle? They haven't won a national championship since 2000.
That's a great question.
I have
Um,
answers.
I'm kind of excited to hear your answers and hear your thoughts on this. Um, I don't know, and it's something I've thought about, but I haven't really come up with anything. Um, I think the Big Ten has always been known, even in the years that they weren't considered the best conference in the country, they've always just had a tendency to beat up on each other. Um, what that proves in the end, obviously not a lot, since they can't win a national title. Um, but I don't know. In terms of their NCAA tournament woes, I don't have an answer. As you said, they got 9 teams in this year. They had 2 1 seeds, 2 2 seeds, and they can't get anything going. So I would love to hear your theories because I am coming up with nothing on this.
So I've got two things. Again, I think I heard someone else say them a while ago, and I'm just kind of running with it here. One of them, and you know how much I've talked about officials this year. I'm not blaming officials, but I think the Big Ten might be officiated a little bit differently than other conferences.
That could be.
And it showed a little bit, I think, on Sunday. I think Illinois was seeking fouls. I think they were attacking the rim, looking for fouls or expecting the fouls to be called, and they weren't. So throughout the year, when you're driving, and a lot of times you barely get touched, they call a foul. And so it trains these players like, all right, if I drive to the rim, I'm likely going to get called for a foul. And then you get to the tournament where I think Illinois had, was it Scarrato on the game last night?
Yeah.
Larry Scarrato, who is the Big Ten guy, but 2 other guys that aren't Big Ten.
Right.
So that's something you have to adjust to. So
that could be.
They're trained and officiated one way during the season, and then they get to the tournament and you got these 2 of 3 officials that don't call it the same, so they can't adjust. Again, not making an excuse for the officials. I don't have a problem with how the game was officiated yesterday or Sunday, right, per se. The other thing, and I think the more important thing, is something that you touched on, is that the 14 teams of the Big Ten just pound and grind on each other for 20 games. 20 games.
It's always that's how the Big Ten's always been.
Yes, but they just expanded to the 20 game schedule. So you're adding 2 more games against high level competition.
Yeah.
The last 20 games of the year are against teams that could make the tournament. I mean, 11 Big Ten teams probably were at one point in February, at least on the bubble. Right. Indiana, Minnesota fell off. Nebraska, Penn State, and Northwestern never really were in contention. But 11 potentially NCAA teams just pounding each other in the paint, because every Big Ten team has pretty good paint presence and some pretty big bodies. It's just a grind to get through the Big Ten. And then when you get to the tournament, you got nothing left.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest thing with the Big Ten and why they're not able to contend for national championships. They're just so exhausted from the 20 game schedule.
Right.
I mean, no one plays 20 conference games.
No, I get that. And I hate making excuses for this kind of stuff. But
I mean, it's not the schools or players' fault. It's the Big Ten.
Yeah.
The money grabbers.
I understand where you're coming from. And when you have a conference that's that highly regarded that can't seem to get it together in the tournament on a consistent basis, there has to be something there. And you probably do have a point. And I think there is something to that. I mean, as we said, that's a problem the Big Ten has always had, but now after they've expanded, of course, it's going to be a constant grind like that. And then you run through the conference tournament like Illinois did. Again, I'm not trying to make excuses. Illinois just simply got outplayed on Sunday.
For sure.
There's nothing. This is not us trying to give reasons as to why Illinois lost that game. Are they potential factors? Sure, but that's not what we're doing here. But I think in the grand scheme and a bigger picture thing, I think there's absolutely something to that.
Yeah. I mean, Illinois plays 23 games against Big Ten opponents. I mean, Michigan only played like 18, so that's why they're probably still in it because they didn't play those other 5 games. But it's been a rough year for the Big Ten. I really thought this year was the year. With the brackets, a lot of pools, you get multiple brackets. So I have the one that's mine that I enter in every pool. And then you have a couple that you kind of play around with. And in one of mine, I was like, the Big Ten is so good this year. This is going to be a year where the Big Ten gets four teams to the Final Four. So I had Iowa, Ohio State, Illinois, and Michigan.
And then what happened?
Like, oh my gosh, man. I don't know.
It's rough. It sucks.
It's rough.
As a Illinois fan, and as a, I don't like rooting for Big Ten teams when they're playing Illinois, obviously, but just like you want to see Missouri Valley teams do well, you like to see Big Ten teams do well for, in terms of the conference, and they just haven't done it.
Do we though? Like once Illinois lost, did you really want Iowa to win? Iowa is so easy to hate. I loved it when they lost.
I want Luka Garza to win.
Yes. Yes.
Is that okay? Like, is that acceptable?
Yes. And that happened like 2 weeks ago.
The rest of them, no, but
yeah,
I don't know. I was kind of hoping Luka could have a little bit more than the rest of them, but Michigan, no, I'm out.
Right.
Peace.
Yeah. All right. I think we've done enough with Illinois, but let's run through the bracket for you. We'll start in the West. Gonzaga cruising to the Sweet 16. And in a surprise to me, Creighton is in the Sweet 16. I had the Ohio Bobcats, who did win a game, but Creighton gets by Ohio today. Oregon just blitzed Iowa. I don't know if you watched any of that game.
I did see a good chunk of that game.
That was the most entertaining game of the tournament, I think. Of course, Oregon did not have a first round game because VCU got hit with protocol. So I think they had 5 or 6 positive tests throughout the week. So VCU had a no contest loss. I guess Oregon a no contest win. I was a little worried about Oregon. I thought they might come out a little rusty, but they definitely, I think they scored 56 points in the first half.
Yeah.
So that they are on to the Sweet 16, and they will play either USC or Kansas, which is going on right now. And I don't have that up because it just started. ESPN says USC is up by 5 with 8 minutes left in the first half. So you got Gonzaga, Creighton, Oregon in the West Sweet 16 for sure, and then either Kansas or USC. Over across in the South, that one is set. Baylor and Villanova. Villanova, another shock to me. Colin Gillespie out, their best player, and they still make it to the Sweet 16, playing Arkansas and Oral Roberts, the 15 seed, only the second 15 seed ever to make the Sweet 16, the other being Florida Gulf Coast in 2013. That team's good. I don't know how much you've seen of them, but Max A. Smith, leading scorer in the country, leading Oral Roberts to the Sweet 16.
They can obviously play.
Yeah.
They Ohio State's good, and for them to take them down in the first round and then handle Florida like they did. I mean, it was only a 3-point game, but it's impressive.
They came back to beat Florida. I think Florida was up double digits in the second half. So that Oral Roberts team is another. I think that's another probably misseeding. I don't know, because I think Oral Roberts probably in non-conference would have pulled off an upset earlier in the year that would have vaulted them up to the 13 or 12 seed. So
absolutely,
I think they could have been there too. And then you get to the Midwest, where, like we touched on earlier, it is just chaotic.
Bedlam.
Bedlam, yeah. Nice or Oklahoma State pun there. Loyola Chicago, the 8 seed, will play Oregon State, the 12. Syracuse, the 11, against Houston, the 2. Houston shouldn't be there. Rutgers blew it late, the 10 seed. Rutgers should have been there, but neither here nor there. Houston, Syracuse, Oregon State, and Loyola. And then in the East right now, you got Michigan, Florida State, UCLA, and likely Alabama. Alabama's up 21 halfway through the second half. So Sweet 16 pretty much set. I think it's kind of playing out how I'm not surprised with how it's playing out, although my bracket doesn't show it. My bracket was very much chalk. but I kind of expected a little bit of a madness to this
Oh,
March.
I did too. It's madness, but I think we're also going to get a fairly chalky Final Four. Obviously, Illinois is not going to be there. So that's one seed that won't be there. But
Yeah, you think
I
like
have a
one or
hard. I
you
just
think
have a
like
hard time seeing anybody but Gonzaga and Baylor coming out of those top two regions.
yeah.
Um, Michigan, I think, is vulnerable, but the options aren't great
I mean,
down there.
in their region, it's Michigan, Florida State, Alabama, or UCLA. Okay,
Yeah,
UCLA is an 11 seed, but it's
yeah,
UCLA.
yeah,
It's a blue blood.
yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know. They're obviously vulnerable, but I mean, I think there's a pretty solid chance you could see 3 1s and a 2
yeah,
in the
I
Final
agree.
Four. You
I
know,
agree.
as crazy as a lot of it's been, I think, and that's not to say that that'll happen. I think certainly there are some teams there that could do some damage. Loyola's dangerous. I could certainly see a scenario where Loyola gets to the Final Four. I haven't seen Houston play much. That's a team that I just haven't been able to
Yeah,
watch.
they looked really good in the first round, but then Rutgers took them out of a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
They did not look good Sunday night.
yeah. I could, if I'm going to predict anything at this point, I think Gonzaga and Baylor get there. I would, I would still say Michigan, but I'm not sold on that. And I would almost say Loyola at this point.
Mhm.
If they continue to play that kind of defense like they did against Illinois, I don't think they should have any problems with Oregon State. And then you never know when you get to the Elite Eight. So it could be interesting.
Looking at the bracket from my point of view, I mean, it's hard not to say Gonzaga, and I'm not even gonna try and guess who they're gonna play because USC and Kansas are still going on right now. But I don't see Gonzaga having any trouble. I mean, they're probably gonna go undefeated. I don't see. I mean, it would take Gonzaga playing really bad and someone playing really really good to beat them. Oklahoma hung with them for a little bit, but they still lost by 16. Um, I would love to see Oral Roberts in the Elite Eight. I think that would be awesome. But I think Baylor comes out of that too. Arkansas is just too inconsistent, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom Midwest, I honestly think it's going to be Loyola and Syracuse. I mean, Syracuse is playing some great basketball right now. Buddy Boeheim's balling, and that's zone defense. I mean, that Syracuse Loyola would be a 45-42 game. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think that's what it's going to be. And that's a coin flip for me, honestly. I don't know. I'll go with Loyola just because they're the Illinois school, the NBC school, and that means a lot of money for our alma mater. But um, that's probably my pick. And Michigan looked really good without Isaiah Livers. I still think that they're probably coming out of that. Alabama, they're looking pretty good too. They're beating Maryland 80-61 right now with 7 minutes left. So Alabama's good, but I'll go with Michigan. So I think I'm rolling with the same Final Four as you, with Gonzaga probably beating Baylor. That's kind of where
Yeah.
my head's at. But we'll talk more tournament next week's episode. Might have to push it back even a couple of days because they play on Tuesday next week. We'll dissect it and let you know what the Final Four is and all that stuff. So that's the tournament talk. And now that the Illinois season is over, we can look to the off season for the Fighting Illini. I think the big question is already answered. I mean, Ayo Dosunmu went through the senior day festivities. I think pretty much everything he said, maybe not straight out came out and said it, but he's been hinting and telling people that this was his last time
Right.
with Illinois. So I think he's headed to the NBA. The big question is Kofi. I think he's probably put himself into draft talks to at least get picked. So it's a matter of if he wants to just go and get drafted and start making money, or if he wants to try and push himself into a first round pick, kind of like Ayo last year. Very similar decision in my eyes. If I had to guess right now, I would probably say he's gone. So you got Ayo leaving, probably Kofi leaving. Decisions from Trent and DeMonte, because theoretically this year didn't count for anything. They could come back. Trent kind of made a name for himself this year. I think he could go probably overseas and start making some cash. DeMonte, I wouldn't be surprised to see come back. And and that would be big because DeMonte is kind of the glue that held this team together, for sure. Although one thing we didn't talk about was Sunday might have been Io, Trent, and DeMonte's worst games as a line, and it came at the absolute worst time.
Well, and you bring that up, and I was going to mention this too when we were talking about it earlier. I don't know that I saw Illinois take an open jump shot. Kofi got some open looks down low, but I don't know that I saw every time when they were moving the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know that they ever had an open jump shot. Loyola always had a guy there.
Yeah.
I mean, credit that to their defense. And as you were mentioning, those three just had their collective worst game as an Illini. But the jump shot, like we talked about, DeMonte as a shooter and Trent as a shooter, like there weren't any open shots.
Yeah.
That was just incredible defense on Loyola's part. But going back to what you're saying, that was their worst game as a trio since they've been there for sure.
Yeah. I know we kind of don't want to talk about Illinois Loyola anymore, but before the game, I kind of made the comparison, and I think it's kind of true. I was kind of half joking, but it's like Loyola is a school like Pinckneyville, like fundamentally sound, plays defense. Everyone, the word of the tournament is muck the game up, or the phrase of the tournament. I've heard muck the game up more this coverage season than ever. Pinckneyville is a team that mucks the game up. I looked at it as Pinckneyville playing like Chicago Simeon on Sunday. Just athletic, just run up and down the floor. And Loyola was just a bunch of regular Joes. And this game, regular Joes won.
They were just missing the candy stripe pants.
The candy stripe pants.
Candy stripe warm-ups.
We debuted those my senior year.
And Craig showed on the bench.
And I was on the bench. Scored 10 points my entire senior year. Yeah. But
kudos, man.
2 of them were in the state tournament. So
proud of you.
Always hold that.
Kyle Cassidy needed a water boy.
We'll save our high school stories for a later time. I forgot what we were talking. Oh, offseason. So we've kind of gone through those guys. As with anything now, you can expect a couple transfers. Likely there's not going to be a year you have to wait out. So it's going to be easier for guys to leave and get immediate eligibility. So you're probably looking at losing 4 or 5 guys. And it sounds like that's what they're expecting from what they're recruiting. They've got 2 commits. They're in good position with Namari Burnett, the Texas Tech transfer, from everything that everyone's saying. And I think he has a draw because he's originally a Chicago kid. Chin Coleman's kind of the Chicago guy. So him, and then a couple other targets. A point guard, Ty Washington, just decommitted from Creighton, who Illinois was runner-up to when he committed to Creighton. So there are some names floating out there that they could bring in that would push them over the number of scholarships that they're expected to have. So there's going to be some roster attrition. So now that we've kind of gone through that and we're coming off this round of 32 loss, what do you need to see, or how do you want this offseason to shake out to feel good going into next year? Obviously losing one, maybe both of your best players.
Well, I think, and you and I have talked about this aside from on the show, but Illinois is going to have a good amount of talent coming back.
Yeah.
I've obviously Io's gone, and Trent's likely not going to be back, even though he has that extra year. I think it's likely that Kofi leaves. If Kofi doesn't leave, which I could see it going both ways.
Yeah.
I think Illinois has a shot to be really good again next year. And I think that's going to be crucial. It's the problem with Illinois basketball the last 15 years is that they couldn't maintain what they had.
Yeah.
They reached this peak in 04-05 and even 05-06, and it just died out. It just flamed out after that. And then it was just a rough decade following that. So if Brad Underwood and his staff can maintain consistency, then we're not going to, this loss to Sister Jean isn't going to hurt as much. I'm not saying that they have to win a national title in order to make that feel better in the next few years, but if they can just maintain that and continue to be a top 10 team in the country for the next few years, there's enough talent there.
Yeah.
Yes, I would assume it was a generational talent, and he will go down as one of the, if not the greatest players in school history, no doubt about it. But there's enough talent there, especially if Kofi comes back,
Yeah.
that they can build off of it and have something similar next year.
Yeah.
Not trying to say they're going to be a top 10 team right off the bat, but I think there's enough there. So with the talent that they have, Andre Curbelo needs to work on a few things, develop a jump shot, but I think he's a future All-American. I really do. I think he is that type of talent.
And he's likely a 4-year player.
I think he is. He is. He's not going to be able to go before then.
It's like
needs a jump shot,
like a Kendall Marshall type.
Yeah, needs a jump shot and needs to obviously cut down on turnovers and stuff. But he's that type of player. We've seen shades of what Adam Miller can do. We just need more of that. And if Io's not on the floor, I think you're going to see more of that from him, more of the player that he really can be. I'm not saying that he's going to be Io, but going to see more of who he can be. And then there's a lot coming in too. Some of these freshmen, and as you talked about, some of these potential transfers. So I think there's a lot there. And I think that this year, as disappointing as a finish of it was, there's a lot you can build on. And I think that's got to start right now. And, take a couple days to decompress and visit your family, but they got some work to do. And I think there's a good shot they can be a contender again next year.
Yeah. Looking at it on the surface level, as it stands right now, I think this was the year for the national championship appearance. I don't think the roster is as good in the future, but it is set up to make the tournament for a run here.
Right.
Which is what this program needed. They, as awesome as it was to see them ascend to this number 2 in the country and number 1 seed in their first appearance since 2013, it's hard to do that. Not many programs do that. It takes, you sneak in on a bubble one year and then the next year, maybe you're a 4 or 5 seed and then you get that 1 seed. So it says a lot that Illinois was able to jump. Now they probably would have been like a 6 or 7 last year had there been a tournament. But I agree with you that Io and Kofi are likely gone. So I think a lot of next year depends on that transfer market. You know what you're getting with those freshmen, Luke Goody and RJ Melendez, a couple 6-7 wings. I saw some video or some tweets that Melendez had a really good week at this one-on-one camp, I think. So there's a lot. He's not as highly rated as Goody, but Goody had a great senior year over in Indiana. So you got wings to come in to play with Curbelo and Miller. A lot depends on Austin Hutcherson, I think. He missed this year with a back injury, but I've been seeing some videos on social of him. He's got his hops are back. He's throwing dunks down, and everyone seems to be impressed with his progress. And then you need to transfer big because there's no bigs out on the freshman market. At this point, it's not going to be a freshman that can come in and contribute. You need to transfer big. There are a couple names floating out there. I'm not a recruiting guy, so I don't want to get into it too much, but there are a couple guys that I think Illinois is high on that the love is reciprocated. So I think that is the biggest thing. If Kofi leaves, you got to get a big in here because Georgie just doesn't cut it in the post. He's not a starting 5.
No. He'll get you good minutes.
Yeah. But he's a great backup.
But no, you need somebody that's more capable of steering the ship.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of questions still with this team. But I mean, they don't lose so much that they're not going to be in the tournament next year.
Right.
Unless something catastrophic happens. This roster is still built for sustained success. Brad Underwood's done a really good job. I would like to see him keep the coaching staff together. I don't know what their goals are. A couple of them, I could see one specifically jump into a head coaching rank at a mid-major. but I haven't heard anything. I have no insight to that. I just think there's one assistant coach that might take a stab at a head coaching job. But I mean, I'm happy with where the program is. And I was going to text you this before the tournament started, and it's kind of moot point now, but I'm still going to ask you. Before the tournament, I was going to ask you how far does Illinois need to make it for this season to be a success? Hindsight 2020, what would you have said? And was the season still a success?
Okay. Well, let me just go back and bring up a point that I think I said last week, in that I'm glad they got a championship of some type.
Yep.
I think that was important for this team. As much as I would have loved to have seen them win a national title, the fact that I picked that in 2 of my 3 brackets that I filled out, that wasn't really what I was expecting. It was certainly on the table. It was certainly as a possibility the way they were playing.
Yep.
But that was not necessary for it to be a success. Illinois, whether they choose to do so or not, can hang a banner that says we had the most wins in the conference. They can hang a banner that says we're the Big Ten tournament champions.
Mm-hmm.
They had the 2 of the best 10 players in the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
The season was still a success. They didn't have to play. They could have had COVID issues and didn't play a single game of the tournament, and I would have said it was a success. Would I have liked to see more out of it? Yes, absolutely. I would have loved to see a Final Four run. I think they were certainly molded to do that. They just ran into a team that was better than them on that particular night. So to answer your question, I think the season was already a success before the tournament even started, and how it ended, as disappointing as it was, does not take anything away from that.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. It takes a little bit away from me. I'm not going to lie. To not even make it to the Sweet 16 takes a little bit away from me. The last thing that I wanted to touch on in this episode, we both said it, I think it was last week after we released our episode 4. They need to retire the number 11.
Yeah.
That is a hill that I will die on. I put that out there. I tweeted it out, and I got a lot of people that say, no, we don't retire numbers, whatever.
They don't retire.
They don't retire numbers, but they need to now. The 2 most iconic players in your program were the same number. Retire it in both of their names. Never let another Illini wear number 11 at the State Farm Center.
No,
End of story.
With you. I agree with you, and I said the same thing. As we talked about, I think it's hard to retire a number after the program's been around for 100, however many years. That's just a hard thing to do when you haven't done it before. But yeah, it's hard for me to also say that they shouldn't. I mean, even if it's not an official retirement, like there's just no reason why any coach or equipment manager should hand out the number 11 to anybody.
Yeah.
Even if it's just an unofficial thing, it doesn't need to happen. You and I had the conversation about the Mount Rushmore of Illinois basketball and all that type stuff. As I said earlier, I'm not a historian. I'm a 90s kid. So anything that I'm not even familiar with the Flying Illini. Let's be honest. I was not even around for that. So, and as far as my lifetime goes, the 2 best players in school history, the most iconic players in school history, have both worn the number 11. Mm-hmm. That's just how it is. Those are the 2 best teams of my lifetime. Those are the 2 best players of my lifetime. So yes, I agree with you. It should be. Will it happen? I don't know. As I said, it's hard to do it after 100 some years and not doing it, and then all of a sudden deciding to do it.
Yeah. But you have to go back through the record books. I mean, there are so many parallels. They're both Chicago, Illinois guys. They both D didn't really bring the program back to national prominence because it was in a pretty good place, but he led them to their best season ever. Yeah. National Player of the Year. Like, I think it's deserved.
You made the comment when you saw the D wasn't a first team All-American, and D Brown was the memorable player of that team. He was the iconic player of that team. He was the headband and the tall socks, and he was the face of the team. And yes, he did earn a National Player of the Year award from Sporting News. It's hard for me to really say he was the best player on that team.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a 3-guard lineup that's why he wasn't a first team All-American, is because voters had no idea who to pick of the 3. They were all three of the 5 best guards in the whole country. So I agree with you because of we're talking about the 11 thing. But I think that there's an argument there to it that, you know, as iconic as D was he even the best player on his team? I don't know, but he was at least an All-American and a Player of the Year. So
yep,
I agree.
We'll draft it up and send it to Josh Whitman's office.
I'm sure we won't be the first.
All right. Well, I think that might kind of put a bow on the extensive Illini stuff, unless news breaks coming up in the next couple of weeks. But that might put Illini basketball to bed for now, at least.
It's kind of sad. That's what started this whole thing.
Yep.
Now we're going to have to move on to talk about other things.
Yep. And next up is probably baseball. And I will admit, we can talk a little bit now, but I will admit I haven't been paying much attention to baseball because other things have taken precedent.
It's also spring training. So
it's spring training. No one really cares about spring training. So,
but the Cubs do have the second best record in the Cactus League. Just throwing that out there. In case you wanted to know where my head was at.
I do know Jock Peterson has been hitting the ball pretty well.
Jock
right?
Peterson's hitting the ball well. Yes.
Okay.
But I have not been watching much of that either. So I have tuned in a couple times when they've been playing, when I'm able to watch it, because Marquee only covers the home games, and I'm not going to get into that. That's not here nor there. But yes,
I'm going to correct you. The Royals are 13-6. The Cubs are 12-6.
What I said second best.
Oh, I thought you said best. Okay.
No, because they were. Well, at one point they were. They're the second best. They lost tonight to the Angels.
The Cardinals are 7-7.
Joe Madden.
So Cardinals have only played 7 spring training games.
7.
We're both repping our. We have both moved on to baseball.
Yes.
He's wearing his Cubs shirt. I got Cardinals on. So
yeah,
it's that time of year.
Is.
I'm focused on the fantasy baseball season right now.
Yep.
I have a draft Saturday for one league, and then the following Saturday, the Saturday after opening day, for another league. So I'm diving into all the projections and stuff. Me and Logan had a discussion today about a trade that I made. I'm not going to talk specifics because the person I made the trade with might listen to this and might not be happy with the trade. Let's just say the person I traded away got hurt 5 minutes after I hit accept. Don't know the extent of it, but he might be on the shelf for a little bit. But yeah, just listeners / viewers, I will likely have a lot of fantasy baseball talk because it's my favorite fantasy baseball. It's my favorite fantasy sport above football. I love fantasy baseball. So
same.
We'll talk a lot about that. We used to be in the same league, but Logan bailed on me.
I did bail on you. I had a rough stretch of years in your league. This is okay. Somehow, and I'll never forget. I don't know. Over the course of like 2 years, essentially, because it was a keeper league, and I turned Chris Bryant, who I had at one point, essentially into Xander Bogaerts, which at the time that doesn't sound that bad. Or right now it doesn't sound that bad. At the time, though, a couple years ago, that was just asinine to think that I had done that.
Xander wasn't hitting and Chris Bryant was hitting.
Yeah. At the time, it was a much bigger deal than what it would be now. But yeah, I had a rough stretch in your league. I go to another league though, and I do pretty well though. So I'm going to stay where I'm at. Thank you.
You can't handle the Southern Illinois heat.
Stay out of the kitchen.
But it's fun. I mean, I'm a fantasy geek. I'm even in a fantasy NBA league. That I hardly even know the guys that are in the league anymore because all my friends I started it with have left. But I enjoy it.
I'm pretty sure that the last time I was in a fantasy NBA league was also with you.
It was. You also bailed on me on that one.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I haven't watched much NBA the last few years, so
yeah, I started that one as a way to try and get more into the NBA. I don't watch NBA any more than I had in the past, but I do check the league every day and see who's playing well. So I know a little bit more. I just don't watch it. I
I
would
did
rather
some of
watch
it for a
college
while.
basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. And I was talking about watching my brother. My brother watches a lot of NBA. So
Yeah.
he was saying it's a lot different for him to watch college basketball.
Yeah.
Just because it's just a different type of game. You know, the stuff that the guys, do at the NBA level compared to what, Loyola and even Illinois is doing is, hear all the stuff about Io being a top 15 draft pick or whatever. And didn't look like it on Sunday. So
yeah, I think, and that's something else we probably could have touched on. I think he hurt his draft stock a lot just in one game. I think he had made himself into a potential lottery pick, like a 15 to 20, but now he got exposed. Got exposed big time.
It sucks that one game can do that to you, but Loyola just put the clamps down on him, man, and he had no answer for it.
Yeah.
So anyway, go on. Fantasy baseball.
Well,
I have a draft on Sunday as well. So
okay, so we might talk about that next week because we won't have as much Illinois to talk about. Now that Illinois is done, we're gonna be talking about a lot broader spectrum. The only other thing that
we just don't know what that is yet.
We don't know what that is yet. We both have. I've got some segments that I kind of want to start. Haven't really put the whole wheels in turning yet, so it's just going to be a bunch of us mumbling and rambling on. The only other thing that I wanted to touch on was this Zack Snyder Justice League, and neither of us have watched it.
Are you familiar with the Snyder Cut?
Not fully. I know.
Do you know what the Snyder Cut is? Because I've ran into several people that have no idea what the heck the Snyder Cut is.
So what I understand is that he took the Justice League movie or all the video that was shot for the Justice League movie that came out in 2016,
something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Which was like a 2-hour movie, 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
And he made it a 4-hour movie. Like he did how he would have done it. Cause he was originally the director, right?
Correct. It was originally his project and he had to get pulled off of it for personal things. And Joss Whedon replaced him and it came out and it was very much hated.
Yeah.
It wasn't a terrible movie. I've seen far worse movies even come out of the DC universe, but
for sure
it just wasn't what the fan base wanted. And then recently, the last few years, there was this rumor circulating around the internet that this Snyder Cut existed. And there's a Twitter movement on it and people got this, released the Snyder Cut trending on Twitter. And then eventually HBO, in an effort to help boost HBO Max subscriptions, gave Zack Snyder a lot of money to build his version of what the movie was. So that's why we're getting a 4-hour long rehash of a movie that came out 4 years ago. That's an hour and a half longer than its original. But from what I've heard, it's actually pretty solid. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't had time. I have to find 4 hours in my life to do that where I can get the TV to myself because Allison will not want to do that. So I'll have to figure that out. But I want to rewatch the original first. I haven't seen it since it came out.
Yeah.
But yes, that's definitely on my docket for some time whenever I'm not watching basketball. But came out that dropped over the weekend at the same time that Falcon and Winter Soldier dropped the first episode of that while the tournament's going on, while I'm supposed to be out enjoying much better weather at a distance at a location that's not this. So I had a lot going on. So I'll get to it at some point.
Same. I got a vacation coming up here in a couple of weeks. So I don't know if it'll be before or after. I don't even have HBO Max. So I don't know if I'm going to watch it even. We'll trust Logan's judgment on that when we want to dive into that.
Guess you'll have to figure out if you know somebody that has it.
I don't do that kind of stuff. I don't steal passwords.
Oh, great. You're one of the few.
But yeah, I forgot about Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we'll talk about that too. Another Marvel project coming off of WandaVision.
We don't need to talk about it today, but yeah, that also came out over the weekend. So lot going on in Logan world. Just haven't got a chance to watch any of it yet.
All right. I think Alabama beat Maryland. So they are into the Sweet 16 and Kansas is down 19 to USC at halftime. So our Sweet 16 is pretty much set. We'll talk about that a little bit next week. Probably a little more baseball because we'll be closer to opening day. We'll recap our fantasy drafts. We'll figure it out. It's been fun.
If you have
the
topic
Illini.
suggestions,
Yeah,
listeners out there, hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about.
yeah, for sure.
We've already tossed out the ideas of some guests and some people that might pop on with us and chat for a while. But if you have ideas, people out there in the world, the 20 of you that are listening to this, that are still listening to this, probably 10 of you now.
Yeah.
Hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear. We got some
Yeah.
ideas, as Craig mentioned, but we would love to hear some suggestions.
Yeah, we got both our Twitters on the screen. For the listeners, I'm at Craig W. Choate. He is at the Logan Lee. Our show.
Is it above me?
Yours is below you.
Oh,
the show's
below
is
me.
Above you. At No One Asked Us Pod. Also email no one asked us 2021@gmail.com. So if you got anything you want to ask us or topics that you want us to discuss, hit any of us up. We'll find it and we'll discuss it next week. Anything else, Logan?
I think we covered everything. I just needed a place to vent and to, drown my sorrows. So you gave me that opportunity. So thank you.
I think I've moved on. It took a while, but I think I've moved on.
I believe your exact text to me was, do we have to do a podcast this week?
Yeah. Initially that was the thought. And number one on my rundown for the show today was, I do not want to be here. But it was fun. I'm glad we started this and are able to vent and kind of dissect stuff. We'll keep it going. It's going to be fun. We'll figure out, football is what, 4 months away, Brett Bielema?
Something like that. I mean, there's Saluki football going on right now. They did not have a good Saturday.
Oh, that is something I wanted to talk about, but we don't have time. Illinois State pissed me off this week.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. I got that text on the flight home. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll, I don't even know if we'll talk about that, but just typical for Illinois State. You were talking about guests. We took a big swing for our first guest and missed. I'm not even going to say who it was, but we took a huge swing and it did not land. We struck out. So
maybe at a different date. We'll see. Not now.
We'll see. We'll get a guest on here so you guys don't have to listen to us for a full hour at some point. But thanks for listening. That's going to do it for episode 5. Catch us again next week. Probably another delayed episode. Probably be released on Wednesday, Tuesday, or probably Wednesday next week. But we'll get it figured out and we'll get it to you as soon as possible. For Logan Lee, I'm Craig Choate. Thank you for listening.
Bye.